Before we wrap up our lunch program, we have a very special award to present this year. As co-chairs of the WPLGA, Greg and I, along with Jim Thompson, Chairman of the National Board, and Tim McGreevy, CEO of the USADPLC Council, would like to present Jim Evans with the Distinguished Service Award.
Well, don't clap yet. All right, so Mr. Johnson, you want to head up this way, and Mr. Thompson, all right? We get an opportunity to, the Western Penal Growers Association voted at its last meeting to award Jim Evans the Distinguished Service Award. Jim actually was absent from the meeting, which that's how he got elected chairman too, I think. But I just want to say, on behalf of the staff and myself personally, Jim, as you know, has been facing some health issues here recently, and it's been pretty interesting. We put a picture in the Post pipeline, and Jim happened to be in a wheelchair, and a lot of people thought, well, what happened to Evans? He must have had too much to drink the night before. But actually, it generated a lot of comments, and so we said, you know, we better come clean here and announce, really, on Jim's behalf, this Distinguished Service Award. And I spent a lot of time with Jim. Jim was the chairman of the first chairman of the reorganized USADPLC Council. And I think when we totaled up working on the 2002 Farm Bill, I actually spent more time with Jim than my wife. And noticing how good-looking Jim is, that was not a good trade, actually. But I had a great... I know Diane would say, Jim's wife would say the same thing. I just have one little story to tell about Jim. When we first got acquainted with Jim, and we were at, Greg and I actually were at Washington, D.C., and it was early on, and any of you who have traveled with me on our Washington, D.C. missions, we have a pretty aggressive schedule. I mean, really aggressive. We do a lot of meetings in a short amount of time, and in Washington, D.C., it's all about walking, all right, and getting around. And so we have several meetings, just bam, 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 every 45 minutes we're meeting somebody else, and there's a lot of walking. We get back to the hotel at the end of the day, and, you know, Jim is, he says, Greavy, says, I gotta have a dozen eggs. Well, what in the hell does he use a dozen eggs for? So, my gosh, maybe he's a protein deficit or something like that. So I, being a good staff person that I am, I go out and get these eggs, and he takes the ice bucket or a garbage can, right? And he cracks these eggs and he throws them in the garbage can, and all of a sudden he takes his 2 feet and he plops them inside the garbage can. I said, what in the hell are you doing, Evans? He says, well, the egg whites, it toughens up your feet for tomorrow's meetings. After that, I knew we were going to get along famously. I never looked at an egg the same way, let me tell you. Jim has been a great mentor to me and a great friend, and he's also employed my children. Which I will be forever grateful, actually. My son Mitchell, in particular, learned how to run a bank-out wagon under Jim's tutelage, and didn't even wreck things too awful bad. Jim, you deserve this award, and I want to turn the mic over to Greg Johnson to also share a story about Mr. Evans.
Excuse me here, but thanks, Tim. And, to add to that story, to really tell you how it toughened in his feet, okay? If I remember right, it was either the next morning or the morning after. There were so damn many mornings after and days after there for a while that we got mixed up. But we got this big snowfall in D.C. Not where we had to wear sunglasses, Farrell, or anything like that. Okay?
Right in front of you here, Johnson.
Oh, okay. My glasses didn't quite pick you up there. Right? But anyway, it was about so deep, and coming from where I come from, it takes a hell of a lot more than that to shut us down. And, Jim being the faithful guy from Idaho the same way. well, taxis are shut down, and come hell or high water, McGreevy, Evans, and Johnson, we're going to get to that meeting. So we're trucking through this wet, greasy snow. It's kind of like walking in snot, and it's McGreevy, you know, up there a block, and then it's Greg here, and it's Jimmy back just so we could still see him. And all of a sudden, you know, hey! And everybody knows, you know, Jim had a pretty good bark. You know, you could hear him for quite a ways away. Stops us immediately because there's nobody else out. It's just the three of us in Washington, D.C. We look back, and you really got to paint the picture now, you know, of Mr. Evans. At that time, we carried all these soup mixes, and we carried our Bibles, and we were probably packing, you know, 25, 30 pounds of weight in our satches and everything for visiting our constituents. Well, here is Jimmy, after his egg whites, had toughened up his feet in these nice fancy dress shoes, which we dreaded. We'd have sooner been in our work boots or lace-up work shoes in a suit than anything, in the split position, okay? So, you know, you got a picture painted now, all right, of that, all right? Well, Greg turns around, and of course we don't want to get our soup mixes wet because we need them for our constituents. And we're sliding and skidding back to help Jimmy, and he's back there balancing on these 2 feet. And I'm not going to illustrate the splits because I'll fall over. To this day, I never will know how he managed to balance himself for that long. But you know, the funny part of it all is when Tim and I both got there, watching us try to pick him up out of the splits without, you know, us falling and him getting damaged. But he was determined he was going to look good for those constituents as we were determined to get there. And it just speaks, you know, for his dedication. But I think the ultimate story of them all is this one. And I sat there thinking about, you know, how to really illustrate it, you know. Yeah, this is kind of part of it, but nah, kind of throw that away. And then I thought, well, this is really flamboyant on it. And I said, nah, I've got to do the real thing, and since everybody is done eating, I know it won't have any effect on you. But we're in the Ag Committee chambers one day, and there's a North Dakota delegation, and there's a Washington delegation, and Idaho. I think Mr. Whitta might have even been there, you know, as a delegation from our processing community. And Mr. Thompson sitting alongside of me, and the constituents come walking in, and we start meeting, and I look up, and across from me is sitting, there's Mr. Evans, and he reaches in. He's he's a packing it up there, and the blood is running down, and he's trying to keep it. And Thompson and I go, get out of here. But not Jimmy. Jimmy's not going to leave. He's not going to give up an opportunity and show that, you know, he's weak at anything. So I go to Thompson with a hard elbow. I go, get your damn camera out then and take a picture of it. And we have it, and I'm sure Mr. McGreevy could dig it up for you if you all would enjoy looking at it. Anyway, as everybody knows with Jim, there is always a one-liner. There is always a saying, and it's been an absolute treat working with you, Jim. And I wish you the best of luck in your health endeavors. Thank you.